Hello, everyone. James Odle, Aplhaspecter here with another Tricon special interview. Today I am on with Justin Birch of Broken Icon Comics. Justin, thank you for taking the time to interview with me this evening.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So, one of the first questions that I always like asking everyone is what was the first comic that you remember reading that got you into comics?
So I can't remember the first comic that hooked me, but I do remember the first comic I ever bought. And it's funny that you bring this up because I saw someone on Facebook had posted this same question earlier today. So the first comic that I remember buying was X-Men Adventures #1, and all it was a comic adaptation of the '90s cartoon.
Hmm.
And I loved that '90s cartoon. So when I saw that there was a comic version of it, I just had to have it, even though I already knew what happened in the comic.
See, I don't think I actually remember that. Remember loving the X Men cartoon and the Spider Man cartoon,
Oh, absolutely.
and that like definitely pushed me into comics. But I don't remember that comic.
Marvel did a good job, and they put a giant #1 on the cover of it. So that's what sold me.
Okay, awesome. So, what would you say some of your favorite characters are like when you were a kid versus what they are now? Like, how have your like what has appealed to you? How has that changed over the years?
So being a kid of the early '80s, I'm sorry, late '80s, early '90s, I was definitely all about the X-Men animated show.
Hmm.
So when I was a kid growing up, earlier on, my favorite character was always the X-Men, specifically Gambit. I think you'll be hard. It'll be hard to find someone who is my age who doesn't like Gambit, whereas a lot of the older people are kind of just shrug their shoulders at the
Right.
thought of them.
Well, yeah, I can understand that. I was born '87. I remember the show Gambit being one of those characters. Is like he stuck out. Him and Wolverine, I'd say, were probably two of my more like who I think of first as well.
Yes, yeah. The show is also the reason why I hated Cyclops growing up because in the show he just seemed so whiny and was always barking orders and demanding that everyone listen to what he had to say. And I'm just like, I don't like this guy. This guy sucks.
Right? And it seems a lot of people have that same opinion of him in the comics as well. He's either one of those characters you have people over here that love him, and you have people over here that hate him for that reason.
So I did that typical thing that I think most people do. Like they like comics when they're in elementary school. Then they get to junior high and high school and they realize maybe comics isn't as cool. And then you start to like notice girls and stuff.
Right.
And so I stopped reading comics, but then I got back into comics when I got to college. And that was about the time that I think it was like the Messiah X storyline was coming out, where all of the mutants moved to San Francisco.
Hmm.
And I actually liked that Cyclops. I thought he was kind of a badass.
See, a lot of that era I am unfamiliar with because like I kind of did the same thing. I got out of comics for a long time, and it was about 5 years ago that I really started to get back into them. So I missed most of the '90s and like 2000s era comics.
You might be better off for it.
That's what I've been told actually. Missing '90s just about anything is acceptable. So, so what led you to the path of like you wanted to start getting involved in the production of comics and more specifically like going into lettering as well?
I tell this story a lot. What happened was I was working a regular 9 to 5 office job, and nothing creative. It was basically a tech support job.
Hmm.
Went to work one day and I had a bad day at work. Came home and the next day I went to work and it was another bad day at work. And the bad days at work started to outnumber the good days at work. So I remember one day I came home and I was just so frustrated with the way things were working out. I remember having a conversation with my wife and we sat down and we basically said, all right, what makes you happy? And what instantly popped into my head was comics. So I decided that there are two routes you can take. You could either try and open a comic shop, or you could be on the creative side of things. And I knew that my town or city that I live in isn't big enough to support multiple comic shops. And I have such a sense of loyalty to my own local comic shop that I didn't want to compete against them.
Right.
So we started looking at the creative side of comics. And when I did that for the first time, I didn't realize that there were so many people involved. Like you have the writer, you have the penciler, you have the inker, you have the colorer, you have the letterer, and out of all of those, I thought to myself, what would I be good at? What could I do the best? And my degree is actually in graphic design. So taking that graphic design degree and then looking at comics, lettering just paired up perfectly with it.
Okay, so part of lettering is not just, the words and letters themselves, but also the bubbles and placement of that, right?
Correct.
Have there ever been times where you have felt like certain panels are more challenging than others to place the bubble so that you don't cover up too much or you don't take away too much from the art, or like kind of give us your thought process when lettering panels?
So absolutely, those situations come up more times than I would like, but that's what makes it fun, makes it kind of a challenge. I view it as a puzzle, and getting everything to fit perfectly and also get the reader's eye to flow the correct way and not cover art. It's just one giant puzzle that every new page is a new puzzle to figure out. So the first thing that I'll do when I'm setting up a page is I'll copy the script over to each page, and then I'll look at the space that I've been given in each panel and shape my balloon so that it will fit perfectly within that panel without covering art and keeping that eye flow flowing. So from left to right, top to bottom.
So what kind of strategies go into, because something that I've noticed, you talking about eye flow, that sometimes there's like a change in the pattern of how the artist wants the like a full page splash or 2-page splash to be viewed, and the words are kind of what guide you through all of that.
Correct. And for the record, I hate 2-page splash pages because I have to work with that gutter right in the middle. And I think I once had a book that was a 2-page splash page, and I think there was something like 25 to 30 panels. And
Oh, wow.
and you get that, and you immediately, after you have banged your head against the desk, you pick your head back up and just start trying to figure out exactly how you're going to get everything to fit without cutting anything off, keeping the story going.
It really kind of sounds like this is definitely one of the challenging aspects, one of the more challenging jobs of the creative side of the comics that probably a lot of people don't realize.
I'll agree with you up to a certain extent. I don't want to speak for the other parts of it because I've personally never inked or colored or penciled a comic before. So I guess what I'm saying is, yes, it's the absolute hardest part of making a comic, and everyone should pay attention to me.
Okay. Well, real quick, we are going to take a break to hear a word from our sponsors over at Tricon.
Where is Odle at, man?
I don't know, man. He's always talking about how he needs to be out of here by a certain time. We make accommodations.
It's already 7:30.
I know.
Whoa!
Guys, we had such a blast.
What are you talking about?
Did you just come out of the portal?
Yeah, I think we're skipping over that fact.
Oh, there's no time for that right now.
That was uncalled for.
Guys, Tricon.
Oh, okay. What is that? Where is
Is that
where
a
is
Comic-Con?
that?
It is the Tri-State Comic Book Convention, June 2nd, Huntington, West Virginia, Big Sandy Superstore Arena.
Okay, well, these comic book conventions are always money pits, man. Can we really afford that?
No. This one is only $10 for admission. Kids under 10, get in free.
Wow.
Yeah.
But is it, okay, that cheap? It's got to be just like boxes of comics as far as the eye can see. Nothing really worth seeing.
No. We've got vendors, we've got artists, we've got some pretty stellar media guests.
Whoa.
There's going to be a cosplay contest. The winner just...
Who was it?
You got to be there to find out.
Well, let's get our tickets right now then.
Come on, guys.
Let's jump in the time warp.
And we are back with Justin here. So, Justin, we've been talking a little bit about lettering. What would you say your favorite and least favorite parts of being a letterer are?
This is going to sound really boring. My least favorite part is the business side of it. So making invoices, sending invoices, tracking people down to make sure that they pay those invoices. Like, that's the part that I absolutely hate. Just put the art and the script in front of me and let me go. That's all I want to do. My favorite part, and I don't know if too many people think of this, my favorite part about lettering, and this is just comics in general, is going to various conventions all over, meeting new people, trying to find new work, meeting up with friends. That's a really great thing about Broken Icon is the amount of shows that we do, just not at Tricon, but all over throughout the year. It's really like I don't want to say we're a band because we don't travel that much, but you get the idea.
Right. Well, that's, I met up with Eric and Nick at Lexington Comic Con and talked to them there about, like, actually got an interview with them at Tricon, and that's or at Lexington, and that's just kind of how this all came to be. And then I noticed, like, they've been in a lot of, like, Midwest conventions here lately as well.
Yes, we went to Kansas City this year, earlier in the year. I think it was February or March. And I was all about that trip. And then, we got in the car and drove for 12 or 13 hours, and I suddenly hated my life. So, we're in Kansas City for a couple days, and it's awesome. And then, we wake up really early Monday morning to drive back, and suddenly I hated my life even more.
And I thought the 2.5, 3 hour drive down to Lexington was bad.
At least doing that, you're, driving through hills and stuff to look at. Ohio is so boring.
It is. I live in Ohio, and it's awful.
It's just, if you just drive across and you're just like, cow, corn, Columbus, corn, cow. And then you're in Indiana.
Pretty much. That's one of the most accurate descriptions of driving through Ohio that I've heard.
Oh, I'm going to get so much hate for that.
That's okay. The only other part that you were forgetting is
construction.
Construction is and it is officially construction season in Ohio.
Yeah.
So that's one of our seasons. We don't get spring; we get construction season. So, like, what kind of other things are you up to? What kind of upcoming projects do you have coming for people to look forward to, or anything else you've got going on?
So there are 3 projects I'm really excited about that I'm going to mention real quickly. The first one is with another writer at Broken Icon, James Maddox. We've got a series on Webtoons coming out in the month of May called Metaphorical Her. And the art is gorgeous. The story is fantastic. It's one of those books that I was really excited when James asked me to do it. And I told him, thank you for letting me do this. This is going to be great. And I think he was just happy and excited that someone was excited about it. The other book that I've got coming up, it's going to be funded through, or it's going to run through a Kickstarter. It's called Road Trip to Hell. And it's written by my editor from Action Lab, and it's just the art on that story is beautiful as well, and the story itself is great. I don't want to give away too much because I don't know what I'm allowed to say about it, so I will just I'll make sure everybody knows when it's out, that they can go check it out on Kickstarter.
Okay. Do you know when they would be able to find that, or when it's supposed to go up on Kickstarter?
I don't know if it's supposed to be in the month of May or the month of June, but it is supposed to be relatively soon. And the third project that I'm really excited about, for a different reason, is it's a book called Socket. It's basically about futuristic robots. This was the first book that I actually got to do a little bit of cover design on. And I didn't think I would like doing that at first. And then I started doing it, and it made me feel like I was back in college in all those graphic design classes. And I'm thinking as I'm working that this is actually fun. This is something I used to remember how to do. It's a good thing I didn't forget. So those are the only 3 things that I can think of right now off the top of my head.
Was there anything else that you would like to bring up?
Yes, I just wanted to share my Tricon experience with everyone.
Okay, absolutely.
My first Tricon was in 2014. That was the year that I had learned how to letter, and I basically looked at every convention that was within a 4 or 5 hour drive of my home. And Tricon was the first one that I saw. So I remember making the drive down. I walked around, talked to a bunch of people. I handed off a portfolio sample to Nick at Broken Icon, and never heard back from him. So I've got a little bit of tunnel vision. Once I set my goal on something, it's hard to talk me out of it. And I knew that I wanted to work for Broken Icon, so I just went to their website and followed them. I just realized every show that they went to and just made sure that I was there too, so that I would just harass them until they gave me a job. And it worked. So in 2015 was the first Tricon. It was the first convention I ever got to sat at behind a table, which was mind-blowing in itself. It was a huge achievement.
I am a firm believer in the fact that if you want a job, you don't leave that employer alone until they hire you, or they tell you to leave them alone, or they'll press charges.
It's always worked for me, so I have to agree with you 100%.
That's how I've gotten every job that I have is, you have to show that persistence and desire to want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think that's actually how I won my wife over, is I just kept asking her out until she said yes.
See? It works in many aspects of life.
I don't think she's going to like me saying that.
We'll turn the volume
No,
down.
yeah, you have to keep it in there.
We
It's
won't
true.
get rid of anything. So, being a letterer, part of the industry and all that, is there anything that you want to say to people that they may not know about the lettering? Like, anything you want people to know specifically that goes into it?
That's a tough question. I would say that letterers are the unsung hero of the team. Usually when I talk about it, I like to say that I'm an offensive lineman. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
No one notices me unless I've done something horribly wrong. So the one thing that I would say, and I'm going to assume that this is meant for people who might be writing comics or have some sort of aspiration to get into the comic industry.
Yeah.
It's always make sure that you leave space for your letterer. They will love you for it. Also, never, if you can, please try to avoid sending a script as a PDF. Those are my only two things I would say.
Okay. I mean, is there anything else that you would like to bring up before we bring this to a close?
The only thing I can think of is that everyone listening should go to Tricon because it's fun. I will talk to you until you are uncomfortable and trying to walk away, and I will just follow you. Also, feel free to talk to me about anything. If you have any questions about breaking into the comic industry, I will gladly talk to you. Offer any sort of assistance that I can.
Awesome. Well, everyone, you heard it. Make sure you stop by Justin Birch's booth at Tricon, and don't forget that is June 2nd in Huntington, West Virginia, at the Big Sandy Superstore Arena. Tickets are only $10. Kids 10 and under get in free, and I think that brings us to a close today. Justin, again, thank you very much for meeting with me this evening, and I can't wait to meet you at the con.
Oh yeah, absolutely.